Both Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton have, in no uncertain terms, condemned Donald Trump for inciting mob violence at his recent rallies, even hyping up more and more incitement with every passing rally. Now, on the Republican side, though, it's much more of a mixed bag. You have certain Republican candidates who are implying that he's going too far, how merciful of them. You have a John Kasich saying that Trump was getting close to disqualifying himself from the nomination. He then said, "Let's see what happens." Strong words from John Kasich. He's getting close. If you become a fascist, you're close to going too far. And then you have Marco Rubio saying about whether he would continue in his pledge to, if Trump becomes the nominee, actually supporting him. He says, "I don't know. I already talked about the fact that I think Hillary Clinton would be terrible for this country, but the fact that you're even asking me that question, I still at this moment intend to support the Republican nominee, but it's getting harder every day." And thankfully, he did say we settle our differences in this country at the ballot box, not with guns or bayonets or violence. Thankfully, no bayonets yet at a Trump rally. So that's Kasich and Rubio still running against him. Ted Cruz said, well, unless he shoots somebody, I'm still going to support him. So he cares more about keeping his pledge than actually responding to the terrible precedent that Trump is setting, the terrible incitement that he's doing. And then you have Ben Carson, who's out of the race now, and he's one of the most high-profile backers right now of Donald Trump. And listen to the way he spins, in a crazy Orwellian way, what's going on between Trump supporters and protesters in this clip.
Do you believe that Donald Trump bears any responsibility for what has happened at some of these rallies?
Well, again, I think we have a tendency to focus on the wrong thing there. The problem is that there are those who are being taught that if someone disagrees with you, you have the right to interfere with their First Amendment rights, their ability to express themselves, their freedom of speech. That's where the emphasis needs to be. Now, when people do things wrong, such as that, it causes other people to react in a way that is negative.
Yeah, so they can't help but punch people.
No, let me ask you something, Carson. So if someone goes to a Trump rally and does a silent protest, which does not violate anyone's First Amendment rights, it's just a political demonstration that is supposed to be applauded by this country, right? That's supposed to celebrate political activism. Why is it that Trump and his goons will throw that person out in the most violent way necessary?
Yeah.
Right? How come that First Amendment right isn't applauded and supported?
Well, he doesn't even recognize that that is an exercise of the First Amendment. Look, everybody deserves to go to political gatherings, whether they're protesting or simply hearing. But it seems to me that a person sitting in a hall listening to a speech is exercising free speech a little bit less than somebody who's protesting. I personally think that they should both be able to do what they do. But he's not even including the protesters in that.
Yeah.
And he also assumes that humans are such vile, base creatures that if you interfere with them, well, of course they have to ravage you. And look, sort of implying that the protesters are more at fault is bad enough. But then he goes on to say that he actually thinks there could and perhaps should be even more violence in the future in this clip.
Do you worry where this might lead if Donald Trump becomes the nominee of the Republican Party? Do you see a general election season with escalating violence and words being used that are inflammatory like this?
I think certainly if the protesters continue with their Alinskyite tactics, there is a real possibility of escalation because those who are the victims of them have two choices. They can submit to them and meekly just do whatever those protesters want them to do, or they can fight back. And if they decide to fight back, there could be an escalation.
You gotta love, they gotta meekly just go and do whatever the protesters want. What happens is the protesters are getting escorted out and meekly go along, or you do the natural thing. You run up to someone being protested out and punch them in the face. It's not like they're being beset by the protesters.
John, because you know what I'd do if someone, I just get out of here.
I just
Get
fall
out of
asleep
here.
on you.
I mean, who cares what they like? If Tyson,
Are you not worried about the Alinskytes?
no, look. If anything, this guy's proven that the whole brain surgeon means smart is totally misplaced.
Now all we've got is rocket scientists. That's the fallback.
I'd say rocket scientist is smarter anyway because look, a brain surgeon is a mechanic who doesn't get queasy around blood. Okay, they're not a fucking
Mechanic
genius.
of very small things.
Yes, they're a mechanic who doesn't get upset around blood. That's it.
I think brain surgeons are insanely intelligent. They can grasp
After
concepts
watching
I
that?
could
Really?
never grasp. Yes,
After watching
absolutely.
that? Like what concept?
No,
like
no, no.
this
Okay,
thing
hold on,
here,
hold on.
cut it.
I know, but there are people.
Like what part of that is?
I'm sure
There
it's
are
very
all
hard,
sorts of
but-
different types of people who have brains that work in different ways, right? There are some people who are insanely intelligent in some areas, but insanely stupid in other areas. Like
Yes.
Jake likes to bring up how he's really smart when it comes to politics, but not so smart when it comes to physics. He's also not so smart when it comes to doing anything involving like life maintenance, like getting his oil changed or things like that. Like people work in different ways,
That's
right?
true.
Which is why I think it's better to be someone who just is interested and intelligent for a lot of different like factors and things and whatever. Anyway, I'm done talking.
I would love to have heard him ask Matt, what's his name? Matt
Lauer?
Lauer would have asked Mr. Sleepy Doctor if instead, it's the way you frame the question. You know, the way he says, "Are you worried about what's going to maybe happen in the future?" Not like, "Hey, doesn't it gross you out to see your party's nominee inciting violence?" Like that would be the question. Doesn't it gross you out, or don't you want to condemn Donald Trump, who's purposely inciting violence? You don't ask like it's a question. Is he inciting violence? What's exact? Again, I'm just the news person with the NBC News, the biggest, most richest, powerful news organization in the world, at my fingertips that I could use. I'm sure I have an assistant. I make $25 million a year. They helicopter me into the studio 3 times a fucking week. The other 2 days I have to drive. It's horrible. But so he doesn't. So it's the way you're asking the question. You don't go, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's happening. Ben Carson, aren't you afraid that something might happen? Stuff has already happened. People are already beating up people outside of these events and saying they're doing it because of Donald Trump. If they're beating up homeless people, they're beating up Mexicans, they're attacking Muslims. This is happening in our country right now all the time. Little kids are coming home who are Muslim from school saying that they're being bullied because they're Muslims. And this is happening. And then we have people endorsing guys like Donald Trump. We have mainstream people endorsing him. And that this guy's supposed to be a Christian. Donald Trump called you a molester, and now you are endorsing
Forgot
him.
about that.
So
He was
again,
asleep at the
and
time.
that's again Matt. What's his name?
Lauer.
Matt
Matt
Lauer
Lauer, you got
doesn't say that to him,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't frame it again.
They're
It's-
afraid to
it is
say what's
unbelievable.
obviously true.
It's like as if we brought in journalists from another country who doesn't know what's happening in America to interview people about what's happening in America. What is his name? Matt Lauer has no idea what's happening at Trump events or what strong-arm politics looks like or what a fascist does in other countries because it's happening right here, right now. And he's still like, what is this? I'm not sure. Dr. Ben Carson, you're not afraid a little? Believe me, Donald Trump could not be doing what he's doing. This situation would not be happening without the complicit help of the mainstream media, who we heard Les Moonves cheering on Donald Trump because it makes them all richer than they are. How much more money does Matt Lauer need? He makes $25 million a year. He gets helicoptered in 3 times a fucking week to that job. Anyway, it's just amazing to me. And by the way, you still don't know what's going on in America.